now I don't want to be a wall between you and Professor Maxwell. So please, with big cheers, welcome Professor William Maxwell. Live too. Loudly, live too. Say Maxwell. Live too. Live too. Blessing too. Blessing too.
Dr. Ahmed, Dr. Nazir Ahmed, Dr. Christian Imafidan, Mr. Tony Nuisi, distinguished members of the community here, our best tutors, parents, students. I was honored a few days ago in a way that I did not expect. All my life I have looked for angels and saints, and I rarely see them. 2 days ago I met one right here in this place. I don't know if you know how to recognize a saint when you see one. They're very rare, but you're living in the presence of one, at least one. Dr. Nazir Ahmed has all the qualities that we associate with the nobility of character that Plato predicted would, in fact, change the world. And I was honored to meet him, to be in his presence, and I was enriched spiritually thereby. He called me the president of education. No, I'm a servant of education. The president of education. Did you call me king or president? King. No, I'm neither. The king of education is Dr. Imafidan. He did what I dreamed about, transforming the Bible, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, all the holy books into reality. Dr. Imafidan, somewhere around age 6, I believe, decided that he would be a great father. And he decided to sacrifice his own distinguished possible career to devote to his children. And all of his children, all 5, have achieved outstanding academic success because of his sacrifice. So if I'm the servant of education, he is the president of education. And Dr. Ahmed, Dr. Imafidan proved the theory that I've been living with all my life. Dr. Imafidan proved the theory that all children are potential geniuses, and he proved it with 100% success, all 5 of his children. But guess what? This school, this very school, Best Tutors, has beaten the record of Dr. Imafidan. Therefore, you have to acknowledge you must acknowledge, the world hopefully will soon acknowledge, that the emperor of education is Dr. Nazir Ahmed. And you will help that truth to be known worldwide. I have visited schools in over 60 countries, around the world, every continent. 6.5 years in Nigeria, 6.5 years in Fiji, 11 years in Korea, many years in America, Switzerland, England. We've lived everywhere, my wife and I. And never have I seen a school with higher intensity of loving knowledge. So my job this afternoon, I'll take 20 minutes. I will share with you a few of the secrets that I've been able to glean from Dr. Imafidan and that I just learned this week from your distinguished Dr. Ahmed. Let me begin. The first secret of great parenting is God. The world begins with God. His Holiness Mohammed pointed out that the Quran begins with B, and B begins with a dot, and that dot begins the universe. And precisely that's how the universe began. It is God, Bismillah, that began the universe. Every great person that my students at the University of Advancing Technology in Arizona studied, that was a course, a required course for every student. You had to study at least one life of great men or women. Typically, they studied Michelangelo or Da Vinci or Einstein or Freud or so on. But in every single case, 90 students of mine, every 3 times a year, for 6 years, they would study great persons. So, judging from their my student study, and Dr. Imafidon, all greatness begins with God. God is there. The second greatest psychologist was so enamored of that concept that he wrote it over his door up above Zurich in Switzerland in German. And the words were these. This is Carl Jung, the second greatest psychologist of history. Called or not called, God is near. And how does God manifest himself to you and to me and to every other human? 1,000 different ways, but primarily in the history through dreams. Every great event in history is preceded by some powerful dream. The last 14 chapters of the first book of the Bible deals with Joseph and his dreams. Joseph, a Jewish boy, becomes the first prime minister of Egypt because of his ability to understand dreams. Martin Luther King's speech ends with, I have a dream. God speaks to you in your dreams. You have a dream for your child. You have a dream for your child. You must translate that dream into your actions, into the reality that your child is created in the image of God. Those actions are, let us learn from Dr. Imafidon. First thing, he is not the hero in his family. His wife is. His wife was smart enough to choose a husband who would devote himself to the education of her children. She is the real hero in the family. But when he was 6, I'll bet you my last fortune, which I don't have anymore. I bet you that somewhere around age 6, he decided way back then, this is the idealist stage. All those 6-year-old children dream. They dream of greatness. They wish to be a hero. And often the parents assist. And Dr. Imafidon was very fortunate. His father, I now learn, his father encouraged him to dream. So he decided about 50 years ago that he's going to be a great father. Your child dreams of being great in some domain. Your job is to help him. So Mrs. Imafidon, Dr. Imafidon fulfilled their dream. When I look in their faces, I see great happiness. The happiest face I've ever seen in all of history, in all of my 85 years of living, the happiest faces I've ever seen are the faces of parents whose children honor them by achieving distinction. Your job then, mother, your job then, father, is to continually look into the faces of your children and find out where their dreams are. And those children that you have begin dreaming about a future at age 2. Beginning at age 2, they worry, what shall I do in life? What is my true calling? And your job is to help them. The Imafidon children were tutored on the computer probably beginning at age 2. What was it, Dr. Imafidon? When did you start teaching them the computer? Age 18 months or 20 months?
18.
18 months. 18 months he started teaching his children the computer. Children are extraordinarily intelligent. They will send to you signals all the time. Dad, watch me build blocks. I'm thinking about becoming an architect or a builder. If the dad is intelligent, if he has made up his mind that he wants to devote his life to his children, he runs out and buys more blocks, Lego blocks, other kinds of building blocks to encourage the child's natural impulse to manifest his genius. Another child will say to his mother, like Einstein said to his mother, "Mother," this is what Albert Einstein said to his mother by body language, "Mother, you notice that whenever you put on Mozart, I listen very intently. I listen because Mozart helps me to understand my ability to predict what note comes next. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do." He knew that when Mozart played a piece, he knew before Mozart knew what note was coming next. And he expressed that in great joy in his face by saying, "Mozart and I think alike." And so the mother went out and bought every Mozart record. Intelligent parents watch their children. There are many, many qualities that the Imafidons have that I want to talk further about briefly. The father communicates his dream to his children. The mother insists upon a moral thought process. The mother teaches morals, the father teaches intellect. All the children are good in the intellectual things, math and science. That's because of the father. All the children are very, very polite and thoughtful. That's because of the mother. You know, in psychology, we say that all children beginning about age 13 or 14 rebel. No, they don't. Children rebel when their parents have not done a good job. If your child is rebelling, it means you'd better look at what you've done to the child. Did you spend 4 hours, 4 times a day, did you talk to your child? When you sat down at night, did you talk with your child? Deuteronomy in the Bible, Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 6, 7, and 8, reminds the father, your child will not rebel against you, father, if you speak of these things when thou rise, quote, when thou risest up, when thou sittest in thine house, when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down. The Bible and the Quran gives great advice to the fathers. Talk with your child. Tell your child what you're thinking. Ask the child difficult questions. Another trick or tip that the Imafidon family illustrates. The Bible begins our species, the human species, with a statement. You were created in the image of God. You are an image of God. You are created in his image and likeness. And the Imafidons continually reminded their children, you know, you're created in the image of God. Therefore, you are capable of great creativity. You're created to be perfect. In psychology, we did an experiment. We did an experiment with mice. One group of PhD students were given a group of white mice. This is not stem cell research, but it's very similar. You took 2 groups of mice that are identical genetically. One group of mice was given to a bunch of students, PhD students, and say, your job is to see how well these mice learn to run the maze. Just record how well these mice run the maze. Another group of students were given the same genetic stock of mice and said, your job is to see how fast these mice can learn to run the maze. And by the way, your mice were bred for brilliance. They're more brilliant than any other mice. So the graduate students did their experiment, did their calculations, did their recording, and guess what happened? This group of mice learned to run the maze in X time, but this group of mice learned X minus 10% time. This is called the self-fulfilling prophecy, the Pygmalion effect. So what the Imophodons said every day to their children, every day they said to their children, you're brilliant, you're a genius, you can learn this problem, you can learn the computer before you're age 3, you're a genius, you're created in the image of God. And guess what? The children believed it. And the world will believe it. Say to your child every day, I love you. You're created in the image of God. When I look into your eyes, I see God. When I look into your face, I see the face of God. I love you. You are a genius. You're creative. There are many other secrets. Time runs out. I can't list them all here. I'm sure Dr. Imophodon and Dr. Ahmed will give you some publications telling you where you might look for more. But let me now summarize what I learned from Dr. Ahmed. Ask a typical Jew or Christian, how many commandments are there in the Bible? How many commandments are there, lady, in the Bible? 10. How many? 10. Yes, there are 10 in the Bible, but Jesus added one more. Jesus added one more. He said, and now I give you a new commandment, that ye love one another. The moment you walk into this building, you sense the love that Dr. and Mrs. Ahmed have suffused this place with. They love their children. They love their staff. They love their faculty. And that faculty loves your children. It's amazing the power of love. Many years ago, when I was in Fiji at the University of the South Pacific in Suva, there was no research going on at the university. So I said to the Vice Chancellor, Dr. Mirage, we need to bring to Suva the greatest minds of the world. So I asked around the world, all my colleagues at different universities, who are the greatest minds in the world? And the names were two that stood out among all others, plus Edward de Bono of this country. Maturana in Chile. He began academic life as a biologist, and then he became a philosopher. And his ultimate book is called The Biology of Love. And here is his essential point. Do you want to improve the world? Do so through your children. Every great invention, every great discovery, every great development in human history has been the result of love. And now I give you a new commandment, that ye love one another. You feel that in this institution. The other one was Umberto Eco of Italy, the great scholar. Umberto Eco's point was, when you love, you communicate. You communicate. Every night when you sit around the table, you communicate to your child. What did you learn today? What were the problems you faced today? Let's see if we can find a better way to solve those problems. Did you run into a bully? Let's talk about how you solved that one. And lo and behold, the research evidence was done right here in Great Britain, in Scotland. The family that talks together, the family that communicates, the family that plans together, is the family that succeeds. Every night. What's your plan, son? Which university are you planning to attend? What are you going to study? Let's talk about it. If you're going to study physics, there are only 20 universities in the world that are first rate in physics. Where are you going? Are you going to be a medical doctor? There are only about 20 universities that are really first rate. Let's talk about those universities. That is love. You and I are blessed. You and I are blessed in that we have glimpsed the future. Dr. E. Maffidan has pointed the way to a future in which every child is guided by loving parents. Dr. Ahmad has shown us the future by saying every school must dramatize a fundamental principle of life. All of life depends upon the love that exists among the humans. I'm honored. I have seen the future. I have seen the future, Martin Luther King. Dr. Martin Luther King, I wish you would listen to me for a moment. Dr. King, listen to me, please. You saw the future. You saw America in which we will give up our racism and elect a black man to be president. You saw that. I did not see that. Nobody saw that. But Dr. King, you saw it. I want to tell you, Dr. King, what I see. I see in this institution Muslims embracing Christians. I see Christians embracing Jews. I see Jews embracing Buddhists. I see Buddhists loving Hindus. I have seen the future, and it is right here at Best Tutors. Thank you.
That he's been doing at the highest possible level. So I want to thank you, Sir Nazir. I want to say, Professor Maxwell, I'm always very delighted to hear you speak because you inform and you educate. But if you know someone is operating at that level, it's always very difficult to follow. As what more can I say to somebody that has been teaching at the university level since 1954? So I was not even born. So you have to listen very carefully. But I want to thank all the parents that are here because I know that you have extra interest in your son or your daughter. That's why, having worked Monday through to Friday, you still have time to devote to additional support for them. And I want every student to realize this. I don't know what you're thinking of doing. Every boy, every girl to realize this one fact, very serious fact, that the school system assists you to achieve mediocrity. I mean, at the very best, any school will help you achieve mediocrity. If you must bring out the best in you, you must put in the extra effort to get yourself into excellence. And to achieve excellence requires just two things. One, your conviction. That means you're sure that nobody will tell you that you cannot do a subject. Because when I came to Sir Nazir in 1998, I came with my daughters. Everybody had told them that girls cannot do maths, that boys do maths and girls do English. And Sir Nazir set out to debunk that thinking by treating the boys and the girls in the same intellectual capacity. He did not look down on my girls to say that, oh, girls cannot do maths, girls have to do English. Sanazia encouraged my first girl, my eldest girl, Amari, to love maths. Not just do maths, but to love it. You know what I mean by loving something? That means do maths every single day for a very brief period of time. And therefore, she improved her math scores. And then from there, she dominated her class. You know what it means to dominate? Does not just improve, but get the top marks every single test. So up to the extent that she was able to write her GCSE maths then, remember in 1998, in primary 6, in the school where the government thought that the schools in that area were low. Waltham Forest was a poor performing borough when Amari was there. And listen to this, the educational level in Waltham Forest was so poor that they closed down the education department and gave it to a private enterprise. That's how poor it was. So how can you explain that with Redbridge, that had a very good educational system, and Amari using the assistance of Sanazia and the benevolence of it, because he was ready to share his knowledge with anybody. So if you're working under Sanazia, you're working under somebody that shares a lot. Did not just share maths at a level where difficult concepts can be broken down because of your level of interaction with him. So she was able to write her GCSE while at primary school and got into Woodford County High School, got into Latimer, and got into some other grammar schools in the area. And then from there, I would have relaxed to say, you've done your GCSE, now wait another 5 years. But with his encouragement, he gave her what is called P1, what used to be the P1, the first module of A level, and she liked it. So she did her A level in mathematics and computing in year 7 then. And it's very sad that up till now, at the age of 11, she passed her A-level computing, and up till now, nobody else has done it. Up till now, no girl has done A-level computing at attending an ordinary state school. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So if Sanazia was able to do it with her in 1990, and then she did the exam in 2000 until 2001, surely most of you girls here must not believe what they tell you in school, that maths and computer science and stuff like that are for girls. You should be able to rise above what anybody has told you and do science or do any subject that you love. Because the only person that can tell you how far you can go is what? Yourself. Because the divine has already deposited in you great gifts. So if you see somebody stirring up that gifts, you must work with the person and be able to work through. So I'm cutting a long story. Up to today, the principles that Amari was taught when she was 11, she's still applying it now at 24. That's how she became the youngest vice president of a Deutsche of any major bank in the world, based on the principles that was taught here or taught then by Sanazia on Lee Bridge Road, and the philosophy behind learning. Nobody can tell you how fast you can go when you are learning. Some schools say, no, you are in year 7, you have to wait until you are year 8 before you do this, you have to wait until you are year 9 before you do that. Sanazia says, if you are ready now, do it now. So if you have that opportunity of being able to have no ceiling on what you can learn, or how you can learn it, then you must embrace it. If you embrace it, you know what will happen? You will get scholarships. And I said it earlier, 2 or 3 days ago to him, in a way of paying back to what he did to my family and to my girls, I explained to him, any girl here that tops the class in maths and or any of the science subjects, we will assist you in terms of exploiting what is available in Deutsche Bank, that you get a scholarship. Do you understand that? Any girl that works with the sciences or mathematics will be able to get a scholarship, not just to university, but to visit the USA. That's what I'm saying that again now. So for the girls, you must listen very carefully. what your school is telling you about your ability is wrong. When you get home today, write it down. When they write, you are only year 7, you can only do this much, they are wrong. Anybody that tells you how far you can go is wrong. The only person that knows how far you can go is the person that made you. Do you understand that? A Peugeot car cannot tell a Toyota car how fast they can go because both of them are cars. Do you understand that? The only person that can tell you how far the car can go is the person that made the car. So Peugeot will tell a Peugeot car how far it can go. Mercedes will tell Mercedes how far it can go. The only person that can tell you that you cannot do GCSE in Latin at the age of 5 is your maker. Or you can't do computing at the age of 9 is your maker. Until your maker tells you that, any teacher that tells you that is jesting. You know what I mean by jesting? It's just making fun. So I'm hoping that in another year or 2, I'll come here to come and congratulate girls that are in year 7 doing year 13 work, and girls in year 8 doing year 13 work, so that you can prove to yourself that your ability is dependent on you. 1. 2, and the boys listen very carefully to this, there is nobody that can tell you you can't read. You know they say boys are very weak at reading, because what Sanazia didn't mention is Fabrice. How many of you support Arsenal here? Okay. Now, there was a boy, thank you, there was a boy in Marcus Road. You know Marcus Road in Waltham Forest? There's a school called Kemscott. There was a boy they brought and said, this boy is very, very bad. He can't do maths, he can't do English. And they put him in the bottom set. Any of you in bottom set? Okay. In your school, you're very lucky. In most schools, they put you in the bottom set. And when he came to Sanazia, he wrote his GCSE after 1 year from bottom set. And go to Kemscott, go and find out. His name is Fabrice Muamba. He played football for England. At the same time, he wrote his GCSE while he was in Kemscott ahead of his friends, because you are opened up when you come to Best Tutors. Do you understand? You are not given the limit. You're not given a label. They ask him, do you like reading? They said no. Do you like math? They said no, I'm very weak. But when they found out, when we gave him more work to do and explained to him with patience, do you know what happened? His confidence went up. So today, the boys, when you get home, go and Google it. Fabrice Muamba, and find out how many GCSEs he got, 1, how many A-levels he got, and at the same time, he was playing football for England in every single category. So the fact that you are interested in sports does not mean that you cannot succeed if you have the nourishment. Are you listening to that? And because of that, I've spoken to Fabrice, and one day, he's going to come here and speak to all the boys, all the people that support football, and let you know that if you can play football, you are very good at mathematics. Don't let anybody tell you you are bad at sports or you are good at sports, therefore you are bad at academics. Do you understand that? If you are good in sports, it means that you were able to calculate how to play the ball. It means you were able to play the ball so that it doesn't hit the net. Are you listening? So all the boys here understand one fact. Your ability is self-determined. That means you determine your ability. Your teacher is only guessing how well you are in any subject. And then the last thing, if you don't speak English, or your parents don't speak English, most people think that you are dumb if your parents don't speak English. Do you know the truth? In fact, if you don't speak English, you are better because you have sound in a different language, so you can produce that sound. So don't let anybody tell you because you are a first generation or second generation immigrant, you are not good. No, 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 no. If they tell you are not good, Google our name, and then you find out what I'm trying to say. Every student here, I'm looking forward to taking all of you to Oxford and Cambridge to go and see the colleges and see the institution and know that you are very, very qualified. In fact, you are more than qualified to go to Oxford or Cambridge. You are even qualified to go to Oxford or Cambridge 1 year, 2 years, 3 years ahead. Sanazia can tell you that. Because Anne-Marie, my eldest girl, got a letter to start a master's degree at the age of 14. She accepted Oxford. Oxford sent her a letter at the age of 15. So don't you let anyone tell you that Oxford is too high for you. No, you are too high for Oxford if you are giving the assistance here. Because you're so high for Oxford, Oxford will want you to come, and Cambridge will want you to come. And I will show you, up to now, in the Oxford University prospectus, her photograph is there. So I'm not just trying to encourage you. I'm telling you the truth as I know it, and I've experienced it. So I'm hoping, and I'll come back again when all the boys and girls that are thinking of doing something big, because if you have a good education, you know what happens? You have a good profession. If you have a good profession, nobody will look at your skin or your gender or where you are from. Everybody looks at your qualification. So I thank you very much for your assistance, and thank you for the
اللهم اغفر لحينا وميتنا وشاهدنا وغائبنا وصغيرنا وكبيرنا وذكرنا وانثانا اللهم من احييته منا فاحيه الى الاسلام ومن توفيته منا فتوفه على الايمان. Oh Allah, please bless all our dead relatives. Oh Allah, please make us good before our death. Let us do such good deeds that when we die before death, you should be pleased with us. Oh Allah, let us do such work that we should be the source of peace in our lives. We should be the source of peace for our parents, for our families, for our societies, for our cities, for our countries, and as a whole for the whole world. May Allah bless all of us and let us give the power to act upon. Jazakallah. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi subhanallahi wa bihamdihi nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik.